today I'd like to talk about trust. Trust is an important issue in all relationships, but who can you trust, really? Can you trust the media? Can you trust Facebook, Google? Can you trust the news that we get on the internet or on the TV? Or who can you trust? Seriously, who can you trust? Can you trust the government? Can you trust the CDC? Who can you trust? How about your spouse? How about your family, your friends? Who can you trust? Now, I'd like to focus more on who we want to be able to trust. Who's important for us to be able to trust? God? For me, God's important to be able to trust for sure. But who else besides God, who can we trust? Our spouse, our family, our close friends. Now, trust is kind of a funny thing because, trust can be broken. And in all relationships, there's times where the trust is broken. But how do you repair after trust has been broken? And is it broken beyond repair? Well, the first thing you need to know is that there are many different forms of trust. So a lot of people think of trust in the sense of physical trust. Certainly someone who is unfaithful or someone who's had an affair has broken the physical trust of the relationship. Maybe trusting that if your partner says, listen, if the door's closed on the bathroom, do not come in. That's a boundary, and I would appreciate if you would respect that. That's trust. Trusting that you can ask and the person is going to receive it, but also respond appropriately. That's trust. But there's also emotional trust. Trusting that if I tell you something, that you're not going to throw it back up in my face in the midst of an argument, or use it against me, or share it with someone that I don't want you to share it with. That's emotional trust. Because it's hard. It's hard to be vulnerable with each other and with people. It's hard to let people in. But emotional trust is essential for a healthy relationship. Of course, physical as well. I'm not in any way minimizing that. But there's physical trust, there's emotional trust, there's financial trust. Trusting that you're not going to spend X number of dollars without running it by me if we're married or if we're in a committed relationship. That's financial trust. And then there is parental trust. If you're raising kids together, are you going to make decisions that contradict what your partner wants to do? Are you going to violate the trust and maybe undermine your partner's parenting decisions? Okay, so that's parenting trust. So trust cuts across so many areas and is essential for a healthy relationship. If you want a healthy, committed relationship, trust has to be at the root. Because without trust, you have very limited connection. You have very limited security, closeness, intimacy. So trust is an essential part of any committed relationship. So how do you get it? Or how do you repair it if it has been broken? Well, I have a good friend who has a wonderful definition of trust. And his definition is, trust is consistency in words and in actions over time. I love that definition. Are you consistent in what you say and in what you do? Because that's how you build trust, is through that consistency. And it could be small things. It doesn't have to be big, large, humongous things. Are you direct? Are you open? Are you honest? Are you transparent when you communicate? Because that's a way to build trust. when you say yes, do you mean it? Or are you just saying yes to placate me or to just give me what I want, but really inside you mean no? And later on down the road, it's going to come back and I'm going to realize that you really didn't mean yes. Well, that's how to build trust, is to follow through on that and to be sure that when you say yes, you mean it. But people who are also working on building trust have to be able to say and accept no from each other. We have to accept the no from our partner. That's how you build trust. Another essential ingredient in building trust is having boundaries, is setting boundaries and maintaining boundaries so that the other person doesn't violate your boundary. But you have to communicate what the boundary is. Something else that's important in trust building is to deal with conflict, to not just sweep it under the rug or yell and scream, but never really get to the heart of it or never really get to the resolution part of it. So trust requires us to be able to communicate through conflict, to actually resolve conflict, even if the resolution is agree to disagree. That's part of building trust. Now, something that I have to mention is that if you're going to build trust, then you also have to forgive. Because part of a relationship is someone gets hurt because of something that's said or not said, or done or not done. And to build back trust, you have to be able to let it go. Now, are there violations where you can't let it go or you shouldn't let it go? Of course. There are circumstances where building back trust is not healthy. But if you're going to stay in the relationship and you're committed to work it out, then trust and forgiveness kind of go hand in hand with each other. Forgive so that you can open yourself up to, again, being vulnerable, but also building back the trust in the relationship. You see, trust gives us security, it gives us stability, but it also gives us connection. In any healthy relationship, trust is what you need in order to have a healthy bond, a healthy connection. So I've given you several ways to build back trust, but ultimately it requires you to communicate directly, to be able to deal with conflict as it comes up, and to be able to forgive when the person does something that causes pain. Trust requires us to be vulnerable, to be open, to be transparent, and also to be able to let people in. So if you don't have trust, and maybe it's because of something that happened, I would encourage you to work towards getting that back, building it back, because trust can be repaired. It really can, as long as behaviors change, as long as both parties are on board with doing things differently. Trust can be repaired. I encourage you to work on building and strengthening your trust in your relationships with people. Until next time, Dr. Tony Ferretti, signing out.